It was a Thursday night, the kind where the rain doesn't slam the pavement, but dances softly on the windows, like it's trying not to wake the city. The kind of night where people either rush home or linger longer over drinks they pretend to sip slowly. I was already 3 sips into my second glass of bourbon. Neat. Always neat. It burned less these days. Or maybe I was just getting used to the feeling. That's when I first saw her. She walked in quietly, like she didn't want to be noticed. But she was. By me. She wore a gray trench coat, still speckled with rain. Her hair was a little messy, like she'd stopped fighting the weather halfway to the bar. She didn't take off her coat. Didn't smile. Just walked straight to the booth by the window. That booth. You know, my friend, some people fill a space the moment they enter it. Others sort of melt into it, like smoke. She was smoke. She didn't look around. Didn't glance at the bar. Didn't seem to notice anyone except the waiter who brought her the glass of red Winnow menu. No question. Just wine. I watched her stir it slowly. Not like she was mixing it. More like she was thinking, and the glass was just something for her hand to do, while her mind wandered far away. She sipped once, then leaned her head back against the window, closed her eyes. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't mysterious. It was honest. And for some reason that honesty held me still. Held me there. You ever have one of those nights where someone enters your life for only a few seconds, and yet those seconds stretch out in your memory like they lasted hours? That was her. She left before I did. I remember watching her rise, still holding her coat closed, and disappear through the same door she came in from. No umbrella. Just the sound of the bell above the door, and then the softest echo of her steps fading into the rain. I didn't know then that it would become a thing. Her and that booth. That window. That hour of the week. But something about that night stayed with me. Even after I finished my drink. Even after I walked home. Even now. Funny, isn't it? How you can know nothing about someone, not even their name, and yet their absence can echo louder than the people who never leave. And so, the next Thursday, I came back. The second Thursday, I got there early. Too early, probably. I told myself it was just another night out. Just a way to unwind. But we both know that's not true, right? I was waiting. Waiting for someone I hadn't spoken to. Hadn't even shared a glance with. Weird how that works. I chose a stool at the bar again, same as before. Same drink, 2 bourbon, neat. And I watched that booth by the window like it might vanish if I blinked. And then, she came. Same gray coat. Same walk, slow and quiet. The kind of walk that makes no demands. And again, she didn't look around. Just sat at her booth, right by the window. The world outside was a blur of rain and neon. but she looked like she belonged in that exact spot. She got the same wine. Didn't say a word to the server. It was routine, comforting, like watching someone return home. I didn't stare, dear friend. Well, maybe I did, a little, but I was careful. She didn't notice me. Or if she did, she pretended not to. She sat there for about 45 minutes. Didn't touch her phone. Didn't write anything down. Didn't read. Just sipped, stared, breathed. You ever watch someone just exist? Not do anything. Not say any, just be? It's rare. And maybe that's what pulled me in. She left again the same way. Quiet. Coat still on. Wine glass half full. Same door, same echo. I didn't follow. Didn't even stand. Just watched the booth after she'd gone. It still held the shape of her, like the air hadn't realized she'd left. That night, I walked home, slower than usual. I let the rain find my skin. Didn't hide beneath my collar. Didn't hurry. I guess I just wanted to stretch the moment. I didn't know her name. Didn't know her story. But something about her presence lingered, like the last note of a favorite song you weren't ready to end. And so the Thursdays kept coming. And so did she. Always the same. Same time, same booth, same glass of wine. I started to count on it. And maybe that's dangerous. To count on a stranger. To build a routine around someone who doesn't even know your name. But I did. And every Thursday became sacred in a quiet, personal way. Like I was showing up to something important. Even if she never knew. She never brought anyone with her. Never smiled when she walked in. But she always looked less heavy when she left. Like the booth by the window helped her carry something. And me? I started to feel like I was part of it. Like I was watching a quiet play, one with no lines. But one I didn't want to end. Do you know what I mean, friend? That strange connection to someone you've never spoken to? Like threads being woven without permission? It was like that. Delicate. Unexpected. And then, one Thursday, she didn't come. I noticed it the moment I stepped inside. The booth was empty. It wasn't late. I was right on time, same as every week. But she wasn't there. Not even the faintest trace of her. You know that weird feeling? Like you've walked into a room expecting a familiar smell, a sound, a presence, and it's just gone? That's how it felt. Like something was missing, but only I noticed. I sat at the bar again, ordered the same bourbon, but it didn't taste the same. It burned more than usual, or maybe it was the silence. I watched the door. Every time it creaked open, my heart kicked a little, but it was never her. Just other people. No one sat by the window. I stayed longer that night. Almost an hour past her usual departure time. I don't even know why. She was either coming or she wasn't. But I couldn't leave. It was silly. I didn't know her. Not really. She didn't owe me anything. But somehow, her absence felt personal. Isn't that strange, my friend? How someone can quietly become part of your world without even trying? And when they vanish, it's like the world shifts slightly, just off its axis. I kept glancing at the booth, half expecting the wine glass to be there, the outline of her fingers around it, the soft glow of the rain light on her face. But no, it was just empty wood and shadow. A part of me worried. Had something happened? Was she okay? But I had no way to know. She wasn't someone I could call. Wasn't someone I could ask about. All I knew was that she came every Thursday. And then she didn't. That night, I walked home faster. Rain was still falling, but I didn't want to feel it. I buried myself in my coat, as if that would protect me from the quiet. I remember stopping under a street lamp, just standing there, hands in my pockets, staring at the wet pavement. You ever do that? Stop in the middle of nothing, hoping the world will give you some sort of sign. There was no sign, of course. Just the sound of dripping gutters. A distant siren. A dog barking 2 streets over. The city kept moving, as if nothing had changed. But something had. The following Thursday, I went back again. And again, she wasn't there. 2 weeks in a row. You'd think I'd give up by then. But no. I kept going. Every Thursday, same stool, same drink, same booth empty. I started imagining reasons. Maybe she moved. Maybe she got a new job. Maybe she'd been meeting someone and finally stopped waiting. Or maybe she was never waiting at all. Isn't it funny how we fill in blanks with whatever suits our ache? We invent stories just to feel less alone, even if they're made of air. Weeks passed, and eventually, I accepted it. She was gone. Whoever she was. Whatever she meant. But that booth? It still held her shape. And I still looked. Even when I told myself I wasn't. It was a rainy Thursday again. Figures, huh? This city, it knows how to set the mood. I was already halfway through my second drink, trying not to look at the booth, but looking anyway. And then, Leo, the bartender, he came over. Now, Leo's not a talker. He minds his bar and keeps his words short. But this time, he slid something across the counter. An envelope. Off-white. No name. Just the faintest perfume. Not too sweet. just familiar. He didn't say a word, just nodded at it and walked off. My hands were suddenly shaky. Can you imagine that, dear friend? Over a damn piece of paper? But I knew. Somehow, I just knew it was from her. I opened it slow, half afraid the words inside might sting. But what I found, well, it wasn't what I expected. To the man at the bar, I don't know your name. I never asked. And you never asked mine. But for some reason, you felt like part of my Thursdays. I'm sorry I disappeared. Life shifted in a quiet, inevitable way. And suddenly I didn't have Thursdays anymore. Thank you for sitting near me, for sharing silence, for reminding me each week that not all connections need words. I hope you're okay, and I hope you keep sitting by the window. It suits you. I read it twice. Then a third time. You ever get hit with sadness and warmth at the same time? Like, your chest aches but your soul says, yeah, that was worth it. I folded the letter neatly, slipped it into my coat pocket like it was treasure. Because to me, it was. She didn't owe me an explanation, but she gave one anyway. And that, well, that was more than I'd expected. I looked over at the booth, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't see absence. I saw something else. A memory, maybe. A quiet goodbye. The funny thing? I never noticed before how the rain streaked across the window there. It looked like a painting that night. Blurry. Soft. Like watercolors bleeding together. I sat back and took a deep breath. Closed my eyes. Let the bourbon linger a little longer. And in that moment, it didn't hurt so much. You know, some people pass through your life like shadows. But some, they settle in like echoes. Quiet, but impossible to forget. And that woman, she left an echo. Not loud, just enough to remind me that not all stories need a big ending. Some just need a little rain and a letter left behind. 2 weeks passed. No letter. No familiar perfume. Just the same booth, the same drink, and me. You ever get that feeling? Like you're walking through fog, except it's inside your own head? That's what it felt like. Knowing something ended, but not knowing what exactly it was. Then came that Thursday. Another rainy one. I almost didn't go. Almost told myself it was time to move on. But habit is a hell of a thing, especially the ones you build with your heart. Leo gave me a nod. This time, he didn't bring a letter. He brought a story. She used to come in an hour before you, he said. Voice low, like he wasn't sure if he should be telling me. Said she liked to read before the place got crowded. Never stayed long. He paused. Name was Claire. Claire. Not dramatic. Not mysterious. Just Claire. And for some reason, that made it more real. I whispered it a few times under my breath. Claire. Claire. Like testing how it felt in my mouth, how it rolled through memory. Leo told me she worked just a block away. A publishing house. Mostly edits books, he said. Quiet type, smart eyes. Then he shrugged. Didn't talk much, except to say the window seat was her favorite. So there it was. A name. A workplace. Just enough detail to feed 1,000 daydreams. But not quite enough to chase after. And I didn't. Chase, I mean. Not because I didn't want to, but because, well, maybe some stories are meant to be chapters, not books. I started doing something a little strange after that. I'd bring a notebook with me to the bar. Every Thursday, I'd sit by the booth, order my usual, and write letters I never intended to send. Dear Claire, they'd begin. And then I'd just let it out. Stories about my week. My thoughts. My favorite line from a book I'd reread. They weren't love letters exactly, but they weren't not love letters either. Funny, right? Talking to someone who's gone. But sometimes it's not about them hearing it. It's about you saying it. One night, I wrote, "Do you know you still visit me, even if it's just in memory? When I'm sitting here with a glass in my hand, I still look up expecting to see your silhouette in the booth. I hope wherever you are, there's a window seat, and rain, and maybe, just maybe someone sitting quietly nearby." I think I smiled after writing that. Maybe I was finally making peace with her silence. Maybe I was learning how to talk to the absence. Have you ever done that? Spoken to someone in your mind, as if they were still listening? If you have, then maybe you understand. Sometimes the booth by the window isn't just a seat. It's a little corner of the heart, where memories wait patiently, even after people stop showing up. Autumn slipped in slowly. The leaves along Maple Avenue turned gold and copper, then danced down the sidewalk in twirls like forgotten ballet. The rain didn't stop, though. It just got colder. Funny how places change with the seasons, but people inside them stay stuck in time. I was still sitting in the same booth every Thursday, still sipping bourbon like it was a warm hand, still writing to Claire in a notebook with a frayed corner. You'd think it'd get old, right? But there's something oddly comforting about routine when your heart doesn't know where else to go. It's like grief disguised as ritual. You ever had one of those? I remember one night, Leo came over and slid a drink toward Mione I hadn't ordered. A pale green thing with a twist of orange peel. "What's this?" I asked. He leaned against the counter, drying a glass. "Saw you eyeing that couple by the bar. That's what she's drinking. Thought you might be curious." I glanced over. Young. Probably mid-20s. Laughing with our whole bodies. The kind of laughter that doesn't know what heartbreak tastes like yet. I lifted the glass, sipped. Bittersweet. Kind of like memories you're not done missing. Later that evening, I added to the notebook, "Claire, I tried something new tonight. It didn't taste like you, but it reminded me of a version of me that existed before you, and that was unexpected. I don't know if it was that drink or the way her name looked on paper that night, but I felt something shift, like a tight knot inside had loosened just a little. Have you ever noticed how healing doesn't feel like fireworks? It's more like dew melting off leaves at dawn. Quiet. Almost invisible. But it's there. A week later, I came in and found a dried maple leaf pressed inside my notebook. No note. No clue who left it. Just that leaf. Amber red, veined like old hands. I looked at Leo. He raised his brows, shrugged, said, "Maybe Autumn likes you." And I laughed for the first time in weeks. It wasn't until later that I realized something. Claire's name hadn't appeared in any of my letters for 2 Thursdays in a row. Not because I forgot, but because maybe my heart was making space. I remember sitting back in the booth that night, staring out the window. The rain streaked down the glass, but I could still make out the yellow leaves tumbling in the wind. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was waiting. You know that feeling, dear friend, when silence isn't empty anymore, but full of quiet understanding? I closed my notebook gently, watched as the condensation from my drink traced lazy paths down the glass, and I whispered, not to Claire this time, but to the booth itself, "Thank you for listening." The first thing I noticed about her was the scarf. Deep green, with little gold flecks that caught the dim bar light just right. She was sitting 2 booths down, alone, notebook open, just like me. You ever meet someone and feel like they walked out of a chapter you hadn't read yet? That was her. She had this calm around her, like she wasn't afraid of silence. Like maybe she even liked it. And you know how rare that is these days, right? I didn't say anything. Didn't want to break whatever spell she was under. But I kept stealing glances. And once, she caught one. Smiled. Not the kind that invites conversation. Just the kind that says, "I see you." Leo came by, noticed me frozen mid-sip. "New character in your story?" he said under his breath. I gave him a look. He winked and walked away. A couple Thursdays went by. She kept showing up. Same booth. Same notebook. One night, she ordered the same drink I had. That pale green one with a twist. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because something about that felt like a whisper from the universe. Like fate nudging me with its elbow. So I finally did it. Got up, walked over, and asked, "Is this seat across from you taken?" She looked up, eyes like evening storms gray, soft, unpredictable. She nodded once. I sat. We didn't talk much at first. Just wrote. She had handwriting that danced across the page. Like she was writing music, only she could hear. After a while, she asked, "What's your story?" I laughed again. Said, "Which part? The chapter I lived, or the one I'm trying to rewrite?" She didn't press. Just nodded like she understood. Like maybe she had some chapters too. The next few Thursdays became something I looked forward to in a new way. Not like before when I hoped for something lost to return, but like when you sense something unfamiliar beginning. We never exchanged names. We didn't need to. There was something sacred about not knowing. It let us be who we were, right there in the moment. Not versions molded by past or future. You ever talk to someone like that, my friend? No labels. No history. Just presence. It's rare. It's healing. One night, she slid a piece of paper across the table. No words. Just a sketch. The window of the bar, raindrops streaking across the pane, and two shadowed figures sitting across from each other. It was us. She smiled again, but this time it lingered. I looked down at the drawing and whispered, "Thank you." And I meant it in every language the heart could speak. Funny how a stranger can hold up a mirror, and in that reflection, you start to remember who you were before the rain began. That week, I wrote her a letter. Not one I planned to give her, just one I needed to write. You ever do that? Write something just to let the air out of your chest? It started with her smile. That one she gave me when I said nothing but sat down anyway. It felt like permission, like the kind of permission we forget to give ourselves. So I thanked her for that. Then I told her about the Thursdays before she came. How I used to sit at that booth hoping ghosts would come back. How I replayed conversations like old records, scratched and skipping, but somehow still beautiful. I told her about the first time I ever brought someone to that bar. Her name was Elise. We were younger, too young to be drinking anything strong, but the bar didn't check much back then. And back then, everything felt like a secret waiting to be discovered. Elise liked red wine. Always said it made her feel older. I liked watching her swirl it around like she knew what she was doing. She didn't. But it was charming. We spent 2 years pretending we weren't growing apart. You ever do that with someone? Smile through the ache. Because silence is scarier than pretending. One Thursday, she just stopped showing up. No fight. No ending. Just an echo. Like the moment after the music stops. So I kept coming. Out of habit at first. Then because somehow that booth became a part of me. Like a limb you forget how to live without. Then you walked in. You, with your green scarf and quiet energy. And you didn't fix anything. But you made the silence feel full, instead of hollow. That's what the letter said. More or less. I folded it and slid it into my coat pocket, not planning to ever hand it over. But sometimes, just writing something makes it real. That night, you didn't come. The booth was empty. I waited. 2 drinks. 1 song on repeat. Still, nothing. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't just missing someone. I was missing the version of me that showed up when you were around. The letter stayed in my pocket all night, warm from the weight of 1,000 thoughts. I almost tore it up, but something told me not to. Like maybe it wasn't the last page just yet. You know, dear listener, sometimes the people we meet in passing carry more weight than those who walk beside us for years. Isn't that strange? A few hours, a few words, and suddenly you're carrying a shadow of them wherever you go. I went home that night and placed the letter on my nightstand. Didn't open it. Didn't reread it. Just let it sit there, like a bookmark in a story that hadn't finished yet. The rain tapped softly against the window, the kind of sound that makes you wonder if the world's whispering something you're just not drunk enough to hear. The next Thursday came, and she still wasn't there. Funny how quickly hope can wear thin, like an old sweater you keep wearing even after the threads unravel. I sat in the booth anyway, ordered the usual, let the condensation slide down the side of the glass while jazz played too quietly over the speakers. No one noticed me. But then again, I wasn't sure I wanted to be noticed. You ever sit in a crowded place and feel completely invisible? Like you're in a snow globe, and everyone else is outside shaking it? That was me. A man in a booth, staring at the door like it owed me something. I thought about her scarf, that green one she always wore, like a little flag, declaring a country of quiet beauty, and the way she tilted her head when she was listening, not just hearing, but truly listening. Like every word you said mattered. It's rare, you know, to feel heard without needing to explain, to be seen without raising your voice. She had that effect, made silence feel safe, not heavy. That night, I didn't write a letter. I just sat there, let the bar carry me like a soft tide. Let the rain on the window become my background music. Let the bartender nod at me like we shared some secret sadness. There's something beautiful in repetition, the comfort of routine, but also something dangerous. Because when a pattern breaks, you're left wondering whether the meaning was ever real. Dear friend, you ever wonder if people drift away because they want to, or because they're afraid to stay? Maybe both. Maybe neither. Maybe we all just get tired of holding our breath. The booth was still warm when I left. Maybe from me. Maybe from memory. I paid in cash. Like always. Like I didn't want a receipt for another night spent waiting. The bartender gave me a look, not pity, not concern, just recognition, like he'd been there too. As I stepped outside, the rain felt colder than usual, sharper. I pulled my coat tight and walked home with the kind of slowness you can only afford when you're not rushing toward anything. That night, I didn't sleep much. The letter was still on the nightstand, unread, unopened. I thought about burning it, about letting it go completely, but something about that felt too final. So I left it there, a silent character in a story that was still unfolding, and I whispered to the ceiling, maybe next Thursday. The thing about patterns is, you don't realize how deep they've carved into your life until you try to break them. Thursday came again, as sure as rain, as certain as dusk. And despite myself, despite that voice that whispered, "She's not coming," I went. Of course I went. There's a comfort in disappointment, you know? At least it's predictable. At least it doesn't lie. Hope, on the other hand, hope can be cruel in its optimism. I stepped into the bar, shook off the rain, nodded at the bartender, and slid into the booth by the window. Like muscle memory, the place looked the same. Soft amber light, jazz in the background, a couple whispering too close across the room. But something was off. It took me a moment to place it, and then I saw her. No, not her, not the woman with the scarf. Someone else, sitting at the bar, alone, a glass of red wine in her hand, but untouched. You ever notice how some people carry silence like armor? Not because they want to push the world away, but because they're afraid the world might not want to stay? That's how she looked. Not lonely. Just carefully alone. I didn't say anything. Didn't walk up. Didn't interrupt her quiet. But I watched. Not out of rudeness, just curiosity. Like seeing your own reflection in someone else's stillness. After a while, she looked over, met my eyes, didn't smile, didn't look away either. It wasn't flirtation, wasn't challenge, just acknowledgement. Two people, same room, same quiet ache, same rain tapping at the windows like a memory trying to get in. Dear friend, do you believe people can recognize pain in each other without a single word? Like the way dogs know who's been through storms? I think maybe we all carry a scent, a hint of the heartbreak we've survived. Eventually, she stood, left her wine unfinished, and as she passed my booth, she paused. Just for a moment. "You write letters, don't you?" Her voice was soft, worn, like she hadn't used it much lately. I blinked. "Sometimes," I said. "Do you read them?" She smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach the eyes, but tried its best. "No," she said. but I hope someone does." Then she walked out. Just like that. Gone. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel quite so invisible. It's strange how a moment, a glance, a few words can linger longer than whole conversations. That woman, she barely spoke. And yet, for the next week, her voice echoed in my head more than my own thoughts. "You write letters, don't you?" God, that stuck. Like she saw right through the suit I wear for the world, and went straight to the heart of me. "Dear friend, do you ever feel discovered? Not exposed, not judged. Just gently found by someone who isn't even trying?" That Thursday night, I didn't write. I sat by the window after I got home, watching rain slide down the glass like it was erasing the world outside. I poured myself a second drink, then a third. Didn't eat. Didn't speak. Didn't sleep much either. The thing is, I had written letters. To her. Every week since she left. Never sent them, of course. Some people write journals. I wrote to ghosts. The next day, I opened one of those letters. Old one. Week 2, I think. It was about the scarf. I'd written a whole paragraph on how it reminded me of that little cafe in Lisbon. Funny how memories hide in fabric. I laughed, then cried, then laughed again, because what else can you do when your heart becomes a room full of echo? The next Thursday, I arrived early. Saturday in our booth. Ordered her drink. Didn't touch it. Just let it sit across from mine like it was waiting for her too. I thought about talking to the bartender, asking if she ever came back. But something in me resisted. Like if I asked out loud, I'd make her disappearance too real. So instead, I watched the door. Every time it creaked open, my chest tightened. Like hope. Hope hadn't quite packed up and moved out yet. That night, someone new sat at the bar. Not her. But something about this place that drew people like me. Like her. Like we were all stitched from the same fabric of longing. You know, my friend, they say bars are where people go to forget. But this place, this booth, it's where I remember. By the end of the night, I'd written another letter. Didn't mean to, just happened. Words spilling like whiskey from a glass tip too far. This one wasn't about Lisbon, or scarves, or shared glances. It was about her not being there. About the sound of the rain when she's gone. About how absence can feel heavier than presence. I folded it, put it with the others. Little tombstones of words I'll never send. The bartender gave me a nod as I left. "See you next week?" he asked. I smiled. "Yeah," I said. "Same time." And just like that, Thursday echoed forward. It was the 4th Thursday after she didn't come back. By then, I'd stopped pretending she might walk through the door. Hope hadn't left, exactly. It had just curled up in the corner and gone quiet. You know what I mean, don't you? That kind of hope that doesn't speak, just breathes quietly beside you, like a cat that refuses to leave. The bar was half full that night. Not noisy, but alive in the way places are when strangers share silence. You could hear ice settle in glasses, the shuffle of coat sleeves, the quiet hum of something unspoken. And then, a voice. Low, gravelly, singing. No mic, no stage, just a man in the corner near the jukebox, strumming an old guitar and singing something I didn't recognize. It wasn't polished, wasn't even in tune half the time, but it had weight, real weight, like each note had been carved out of regret. Dear listener, have you ever heard a song that didn't ask for your attention, but somehow took it anyway? Like it wasn't meant for your ears, but your bones. I closed my eyes and let it wash over me. Something about the way he dragged the chords. It reminded me of the way she used to stretch silence between words, like she was making space for meaning. The bartender leaned in and said, "He shows up once in a while. Never says his name. Just sings and leaves." I nodded. Somehow, that made sense. Some people don't come to be seen. They come to remember. As the man sang his last verse, I scribbled something in my notebook. Not a letter this time. Just a line. Even ghosts hum their favorite songs. And I swear, for one brief moment, I could feel her. Not see her. Not touch her. Just feel the warmth of her memory press against the chill of my loneliness. He packed up his guitar, nodded once to no one in particular, and walked out into the rain. Didn't even finish his drink. And I thought maybe he was someone's ghost, too. I stayed a little longer that night. Didn't write, didn't speak. Just let the silence sit beside me, not as a burden, but as company. And when I left, the rain had eased to a drizzle, soft, gentle, like even the sky had decided to hum a lullaby. There was a small bookshop a few blocks from the bar. You'd miss it if you weren't paying attention. Tucked between a laundromat and a place that used to sell antiques but now just sells memories no one wants. She introduced me to that shop. Said it smelled like stories and dust. She loved those kinds of places. Quiet, unassuming, where you could hear your own thoughts rustle against the pages. One Thursday, when I couldn't take sitting at the booth, I wandered there instead. The bell above the door gave that familiar little chime, like a whisper welcoming me back. And the smell. You know what I mean, right, dear friend? That rich, earthy scent of old paper and ink, mixed with something slightly bitter, maybe regret. I wandered the poetry section. She loved poetry. Not the flowery kind, but the stuff that bruises you gently. The kind that doesn't rhyme, but lingers in the back of your throat, like something you meant to say but didn't. There was one book, gray cover, no title, just sat there like it didn't care if you picked it up or not. Naturally, I picked it up. Flipping through, I found a poem underlined in pencil. Her handwriting, God. I knew it immediately. That slight slant, the little heart she always drew in the eye. She'd been here. She'd touched this book. Maybe even read it in this very aisle. The poem was called Some Mornings. It read, "Some mornings I wake and forget the ache, and sip the light like it's new, but memory stirs beneath my cup, and you rise, warm and slow, from the steam. Simple, painful, beautiful, just like her." I bought the book. Didn't care how much it cost. Didn't even take the receipt. I just needed to hold that page again. That night, I didn't go to the bar. I sat on my balcony instead, with the book in my lap and a glass of something warm in my hand. And I read that poem aloud, like she was still listening, like she was somewhere just beyond the edge of the light. I think we leave pieces of ourselves in the places we love. Books, booths, old songs. They hold us quietly, waiting for someone to come back and find us again. That was her poem, her underline, her invisible fingerprint. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel quite so alone. I used to stare at my phone. You know, the way a kid stares at the ocean, not sure if it's going to offer up something magical or swallow them whole. I must have typed her number 100 times, thumb hovering over the call button, heartbeat in my ears. Always the same ending, though. Backspace, sigh, lock screen. I knew she wouldn't pick up. Or maybe I was terrified she would. Isn't that strange, dear friend? How we can be haunted by both silence and the possibility of a reply. There was this one night, I'd had just enough bourbon to blur the sharp edges of my pride. Rain tapping the window, the city humming low. And I thought, what if this is the night? What if she's waiting too? So I called. It rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Then her voicemail. God. Her voice. That soft, sunny cadence. "Hi, it's me. Leave a message or don't. I'm probably chasing clouds." I froze. Completely. Heart stuck in my throat like a marble. The beep came, and I couldn't. I hung up. Do you know that feeling? When your hand is still warm from something that never happened? That ghost of an action, lingering longer than it should. I sat there for hours, phone screen dark, voicemail echoing in my mind. And I started talking to her anyway, like the booth was the message machine. I told her everything. about the poem, the bookstore, the Thursday nights, the way I still ordered her drink sometimes just to see it sweating on the table. I talked until the bartender turned off the last light, until the rain had stopped and the city yawned itself to sleep. And then I walked home, barely feeling the sidewalk beneath me, like I was floating in the space between what was said and what never will be. That voicemail, it never changed, never updated. She either forgot it was there, or she wanted it to stay the same. Like some part of her was frozen in time. Like she knew someone might still be listening. And I was. God, I still am. If only she'd stayed that night. Just once more. Maybe things would have unraveled differently. You ever think about that, my friend? Those little hinges where everything could have swung the other way? It wasn't a big fight. Not the kind people write movies about. There were no screaming matches, no plates thrown across the kitchen. Just tired words. Heavy silences. Like we'd both gotten too used to hearing only our own breathing. She said she needed space, and I nodded like I understood. But inside, I was already cracking. The week before she stopped coming, we sat in this very booth, 2 drinks deep. She stared out the window, watching the rain chase itself down the glass. She said, "It's funny. This place used to feel like ours." I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. Again, like some damn puppet. And the silence between us that night, it wasn't peaceful. It was loud. She didn't show up the next Thursday. I thought maybe she was sick, or late, or maybe stuck at work. So I waited. Bartender raised his brow like he already knew, but I waited anyway. Rain fell harder that night, pounding like it was trying to drown out the truth. Her drink sat untouched across from me, ice slowly surrendering to the warmth of the room. You ever sit across from an absence? It's strange how it still takes up space. Still feels like something you have to work around. I remember texting her. Just a simple, "Hey, you okay?" No response. Not that night. Not the next day. Just radio silence. And then, days later, a message. "I think we need to stop pretending we're still in love." No hey. No, sorry. Just that. God. It gutted me. I reread that sentence until it lost all shape. Until it didn't sound like English anymore. You ever lose something slowly and then all at once? Like you knew it was slipping through your fingers, but you were too afraid to close your hand? That booth became a graveyard for everything unsaid. Every joke we didn't laugh at. Every plan we didn't make. Every moment I should have told her I loved her without needing a reason. And I think if she'd stayed that night, just one more Thursday, maybe I would have had the courage to say something that mattered. Or maybe not. Maybe it would have ended the same way, but at least I wouldn't be haunted by the quiet clink of a glass she never lifted. There's a certain kind of silence that follows heartbreak. It's not just the absence of her voice or the empty seat across the booth. It's in everything. The clink of a spoon against porcelain, the low murmur of jazz drifting through the speakers, the way the bartender avoids asking if she'll be joining me tonight. I came back the week after, and the week after that. Same booth, same drink, same stupid hope. You know what's strange, dear friend? How quickly a memory can rot when it's left out in the open. Like fruit on the windowsill. One moment sweet. Next, you're swatting flies. I started noticing the details. The worn patch on the leather seat she always slid into. The way the wood near her corner of the table had tiny knife scratches. She used to trace them with her fingertip when she was thinking. Every mark became a ghost of her. One night, I brought a notebook. Thought maybe I'd write something. Get it all out. Instead, I spent an hour doodling spirals and drawing her name over and over again. Like some kid with a crush. Pathetic, huh? Sometimes, I'd pretend she was just running late. That any second, I'd hear the chime of the door, see her brushing rain off her coat, muttering about traffic or her boss or the weather. And for a second, I'd even catch a whiff of her perfume, but it was always someone else. I don't blame her, you know. We were both tired, running on fumes, trying to pretend love was enough to keep things from breaking. It's not. It never is. You ever stay too long in a place because you're waiting for something that already left? Like some part of you can't accept it's over until the air feels different? One Thursday, I didn't come. I sat at home, drank on my porch, listened to the same song on repeat. Felt like I was betraying some unspoken ritual. But you know what? She didn't come that night either. Even if I had waited. There's no climax to this part. No big revelation. Just the slow, stubborn ache of letting go. The way it sneaks up on you. Like mist on your skin. Soft. Persistent. I still sit here sometimes. Mostly out of habit. The bartender doesn't ask questions anymore. Just brings me my usual and nods. I think he gets it. And when the rain taps the window just right, I close my eyes. Pretend she's still across from me, smiling that tired, beautiful smile. Laughing at something I said that wasn't even funny. God, I miss that. But hey, my friend, that's what memories do. They haunt the quiet, not with screams, but with whispers. You know, it always rains on Thursdays. Not every week, of course, but often enough to feel like the sky remembers her too. Maybe it's just coincidence, but some part of me likes to believe it's more than that. More than just weather. Rain has a way of holding memories, doesn't it? It clings to sidewalks, makes reflections shimmer and shift, like they're alive, like they're trying to speak. I sometimes walk to the bar without an umbrella, just to feel the rain on my skin, just to remember. One of those nights, I lingered by the window before going in. You know the one, that corner booth by the glass. It's the same every time, but in the rain, it feels like it holds its breath. I stepped inside. My shoes squeaked on the floor, and the jazz hummed low and easy. The bartender gave me a nod. No words. He just poured the usual. Neat. Amber. Burning just enough. I sat down. Same side of the booth. Not across from her. Not anymore. It didn't feel right somehow. Outside, the world blurred. Headlights became smears of gold. People dashed under coats. Umbrellas spun like black flowers, opening and closing. And me, just sitting there in the booth we used to share. I thought about that first night again. How she asked if she could share my table. How surprised I was by the way she smiled. Like she already knew me. Like we'd met before in another life. Sometimes I wonder, do we get more than one great love? Or is it just one? One that wrecks you in the best way, leaves fingerprints all over your soul, and then disappears into the crowd? She changed me, made me softer, quieter maybe, but more aware of moments, of silence, of the way time slips through your fingers when you're not watching. There's a photo I keep. It's not framed or anything, just tucked inside a book on my shelf. We're both laughing in it. I can't even remember what was so funny. But God, we looked happy. That's the thing, dear listener. Happiness isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just a booth by the window, 2 glasses sweating on the table, and someone who knows how you like your drink. Maybe love doesn't end. Maybe it just waits. In quiet places, in songs you can't skip, in rain against the glass, in the way the bartender looks at you like he's seen this sadness before. Anyway, it's Thursday again. And yes, it's raining. But I'm still here. Still sipping. Still waiting. Not for her, but maybe for the part of me I lost when she walked away. You get that, don't you? That feeling of being almost okay, but not quite. Like a song stuck in your head, but you can't remember the lyrics. Yeah, that's me. You know what I've learned, sitting here all these years? Most stories don't end with a bang. They fade. Like the last note of a piano drifting into silence. And people? We don't break all at once. We wear down, like stone under soft, persistent rain. Tonight the bar's almost empty. Just me, the bartender, and that one couple at the far end, whispering too quietly to hear. It's quiet, but not lonely. Not exactly. I've made peace with it. With the booth. With her absence. With the idea that not everything has to be fixed. Some things just stay broken. You ever notice how we always look for closure? Like it's some sacred thing. But life isn't a letter you seal and send off. It's a drawer you leave open just a crack because you think you might still need what's inside. She never came back. Not once. But sometimes I imagine it. Her walking through the door, looking just like she used to. A little older maybe, but with that same half smile. She'd slide into the booth, order that ridiculous drink she liked, and say, "So, missed me?" And I wouldn't say anything. Just smile. Because yes. Yes, I did. Every damn day. But that's just a story now. One I keep in my pocket for rainy nights. Because hope, it doesn't leave you. It just gets quieter. The bartender just asked if I wanted one more. And I said yeah. Not because I need it, but because I'm not quite ready to leave. That's the thing about memory. It lingers. Not like a ghost, but like a song in the background. You don't always hear it, but when you do, it takes you back. To the booth by the window. To her laughter. To that one Thursday when it didn't rain, and the sky stayed clear. Just for us. So here I am. One more drink in. One more night closer to forgetting. Or remembering. They blur after a while. If you're still with me, dear friend, thank you for sitting through this with me, for keeping me company, even if just in spirit. It means more than you know. So, what do you say? One more drink for old times? To all the stories we carry, and the ones we never got to tell. To the rain. To the booth. To her. Cheers.